and welcome to this week's art class. Now this week we're having a go, we have done some before, but we're having another go at doing some negative painting because it's a very important watercolour skill for you to learn. Now the reason why it is so important is because, as you know, when you paint in watercolour uniquely, you work from light to dark, and so as a result, when you're planning your watercolour picture, you have to think how you're going to deal with each layer of colour and how you're going to reserve the highlights and the lighter colours while you build up the darks. So an exercise like this gives you lots and lots of practice in doing that, and also it helps you with your brush skills, and it helps you also to get to know your colours. Without a doubt, some colours work better than others in these sort of exercises. Some are more granulating, like French Ultra, but I'd recommend something like Payne's Grey or Sepia because the tonal value is bigger, so you can go from the lightest light to the darkest dark. This is a particularly useful exercise when you've got lots of other things to do, because really what you want to do is put the first layer on and then walk away until it's totally dry, come back, put the next layer on, and then you could disappear for a day, 2 days, come back and do a little bit more. And the more layers you build up, the more saturated the darker colours will be, and so you'll have more contrast within your picture. Right, now the colour I'm going to use today is Sepia, and I'm using it because it's got a very large tonal value. So you can start off with a very, very watery consistency, and then it can be darker and darker as you build it up, and so it looks like almost black, and that's what we want to achieve. So when I say we need to mix a lot of pigment, what I'm suggesting is that you actually mix it in a little pot like this. So we'll give a good old squeeze of it, and then add water directly. So I'll use I've got my little water pot here. Add a little bit at a time because you don't want a great lump of paint at the bottom. So loosen that. Loosen that up. And then add a lot more water to it. We can always add more again, but what we want to do initially is to make sure that we've got a whole plenty of paint ready to go, so we're not stopping halfway through to mix some more. If we can just test that quickly, you can see we could probably even add a bit more water for the initial washes. So at its very, very wateriest version, it's like this, and at its very, very darkest, it's like that. So if you can achieve all those tonal values within the painting, it'll give a nice lot of contrast. Now basically I've decanted a certain amount in there because I want to use my nice big brush to get a real flat wash at the beginning. So we'll start off by giving it a bit of a spray. And we'll just move that around so we know that the whole of the surface is wet. If you're not sure, just bend down and look at it from an angle so you can see that there's just a glow of the water on there. That looks wet enough, and we'll start off with our initial wash. We want it fairly flat, but you can have a little bit of texture in there, it doesn't matter. But I'm doing it this way simply because I can see that it's behaving itself quite well and will flatten out. You depending on the quality of your paper, you might find that you have to work far more carefully working from the top, but mine is on an angle already and it's washing downwards and it's giving me a nice flat wash fairly easily. Yay! Right, now what we're going to do now is just go away and let it dry. Right, now that's nice and dry, and we're going to start off basically because we're doing this tonal drawing, negative painting, and the lightest things are going to be in the foreground. When you get used to doing this, you can play around with it more and put some light things in different places, but we'll work from front to back. And so in a sort of Cézanne-like way, we'll put a couple of pears and apples in. So let's put something. You don't have to draw, in fact you won't. As time goes on you'll do less and less, but we're only doing the outline, remember, so it's very, very stylized, so your pear can be as long as it's sort of vaguely pear-shaped. But we're not overlapping shapes. That happens with the as we build up. So we'll put a pear there. So we have, no, that might be a bit small. We can have something sort of apple-shaped there. I think that'll do for now. Let's just go with that. The other thing I wanted to remind you of is I said to mix a lot of paint, but depending on how long you've been away, certainly it needs a good stir because things will just sort of drop to the bottom and separate out. But you know, if you've left it a couple of days, without a doubt you probably would need to add more water to it. So what I'm going to do here is basically just the very fine outline, and then before it settles too much I'm going to make sure with my big brush, which I have here, paint the whole of the rest of the background in that tone. So we want to make sure very much we have no lines and it's very smooth and very flat. Right, now to remind you, mix everything up. If you've been gone for a long while, you might want to add a little bit more water. And let's try the next layer. I really enjoyed painting this one, and I think you will too. Send them in to me and we can put them in a gallery. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.